The silver supply is being gobbled up globally right now. It's disappearing as fast as you can try to keep an eye on it.
What is going on the physical level of the silver market? We'll also touch on gold a bit as well today. The silver market always ticking and active, and curious, perhaps a good place to start would be what's going on with the premiums and availability. Obviously, we've seen silver tick down a bit over the past couple of weeks, so curious how that has affected the premiums and anything else on the order flow there.
You know, Chris, all I can tell you is that it's so counterintuitive. I mean, the silver supply is being gobbled up globally right now. It's disappearing as fast as you can try to keep an eye on it. If you're looking to get into the silver market, if you're looking to get into the gold market, if you think things have changed, well, that's one thing. But if you don't think anything's changed for the better in this country, and maybe even getting worse, then this is an opportunity. It's a subsidy, if you will, where the prices are low, the premiums are low, the availability is good. At the same time, the most sophisticated money in the world is using that exact environment to empty the coffers, if you will, of all the available industrial size silver. And that's at the top. It'll eventually work its way down when the people who aren't as close to the information wake up to the understanding that you need to have part of this in your portfolio. And I really do believe that's why we see countries like India importing 300 million ounces of silver. And that's why we see massive drawdowns off the ETFs and the London Metals Exchange and COMEX, because these people understand it. And you're able to sense it and see it when you're analyzing it, as am I, but it doesn't make it easy for the person who's just looking at the paint job rather than lifting up the hood to see those fundamentals. Take some time, some effort, and some conviction, all of which you have. And that's why I think it doesn't make sense to you and I why this subsidy, which in my opinion acts as if it's a gift, because you've been out here talking about silver for a long time, and yet people haven't caught on because all they focus on is price. But if price was a determinant of value, then why didn't India just import 300 million ounces last year, more than the entire COMEX universe, of which the majority of that 288 million ounces on COMEX is not for sale?
When you mentioned Bill Gates potentially buying silver, that would certainly be interesting to see. Although, did notice that John Paulson is getting back onto his gold bet. And an article I was coming across yesterday, I guess what he made from his gold bet personally and back during the subprime crisis could actually take out the entire COMEX silver stash, which I'm not saying that that's about to happen, but just interesting to see, because it is a small amount that at least what we see publicly on these stacks there is not a lot. So anyway,
you know, one question I don't know, Chris, and maybe you know the answer to this. If a country like India, who imported 304 million ounces last year, if they said to the COMEX, we'll take all 35 million ounces on the registered category, could they do that? Would they allow that? Do you think the COMEX would say, okay, here you go, and now there are no bars back in the system? My question to you as a silver expert, maybe something you can think about for next week, when I try to find out why there are denominations on the coins. I've had very little success in doing that. I'm going to call my U.S. Mint rep and see if I can get to the bottom of it. But what would happen if someone stood for delivery on 35 million ounces of silver, which would render the COMEX, there's nothing there because the rest of it is ineligible? Let's just make the assumption that everything else ineligible isn't for sale. Would the COMEX allow that to happen? And that's really the question that I haven't yet been able to wrap my head around. Maybe you have an answer to that. Don't mean to turn the tables here and be the interviewer, but just thought maybe if you've ever thought about that.
I haven't thought about that particular scenario. I'd imagine they would not be in a rush to be doing that, and perhaps we'd see something like similar to 1980 when the Hunt brothers were trying to take silver off the exchange. Interesting to think of. I'll think about that one over the next week as well. But I would imagine there would be some pushback, perhaps mostly because I remember when hearing the stories about when Sprott was trying to take silver from the COMEX a couple of years ago. At least the rumors were they were kind of given the warning to cool it on that. So,
well, look at it this way. At the beginning of Silver Squeeze, there was 420 million ounces, I believe. We've seen over 120, 130 million ounces bled down, most of it, I guess, in the registered category. So are we getting to that moment, that point where things start to inflect? Maybe we are, but I guess what I'd like to leave people with this week and thinking about is that we're that close. If that's 10 times what if India imported almost 10 times what there is backing the COMEX, if the LME says if we see deliveries this year like we did last year, there'll be no silver left. How close are we to that moment where we are proven not just right, but massively right, where the positioning on the COMEX, the commercial banks let the price run instead of hold it back? And I guess we'll have to see. But I think the moral of the story is you could argue in that environment, I'm not saying this to incentivize people through fear, but I mean, just thinking logically, if we're that close to that type of pivotal moment, are we getting close to the end? Are we getting close to that last minute? So something to think about. We can pick up where we left off next week. I know you have a hard stop. I know you wanted to know if we had a special for this week for the Arcadia listeners, and we do. We have 2022 silver maple leafs. Sorry to look at this. 2022 silver maple leafs for $3.40 over the price of silver. That's $5-6 cheaper than they were a few months ago. So they come in tubes of 25 and in sealed boxes of 500. So it's 2022 silver maple leafs, $3.40 over the price of silver. And for Arcadia listeners, starting immediately.